All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm excited because today we are talking about Se7en on 4K. This is the latest release from Warner Brothers. This is really the first big 4K of 2025, guys. So I'm definitely excited to get into this. We're going to talk about the movie. We're going to talk about the 4K transfer. There's already controversy swirling around out there, guys, about this 4K. Is it Revisionist by David Fincher? Is David Fincher the new James Cameron? We're going to get into all that stuff here today, talk about the sound, the special features, the packaging right here, guys, because this actually came out and was available to pre-order, I think in 2023, and it was the What's in the Box edition that was up on Zavi UK. There was 2 different editions of that. And then it got delayed, supposed to come out in January 2024. Then it started to get canceled. And then they actually came out and said that David Fincher himself had to do with the cancellation because he wanted to design a more conservative like packaging with this Digipack edition. So David Fincher, maybe like one of the few examples that I've heard of where a filmmaker actually has a say-so in the packaging of their physical release. So David Fincher does have quite a bit of pull when it comes to releasing this film from Warner Brothers. So that set got canceled. I know there's a lot of people that wanted to get that set. It was a cool looking set, especially like for fans of this movie and collectors out there. We're going to get into the unboxing though here, guys. We're going to talk about all things Se7en on 4K. Before we get into it, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Leave me a comment down below. What's your thoughts on Se7en? A lot of people would say this is the best crime thriller of the 90s, like up there with the likes of Silence of the Lambs. Se7en is a movie that I enjoyed this movie when I watched it, like when I was a kid, because I saw it back in the day, but it was not a movie that I went back and rewatched a ton. The David Fincher movie that I loved rewatching as a kid was The Game with Michael Douglas, and I really need a 4K of that. Now, as I get older, like I appreciate this movie more, and it's definitely like as a movie, I think this is a better movie than The Game. The Game's a little hokey, especially when you get to the final act of the film. But I always liked The Game as a kid. For some reason, that just felt darker and grittier and just felt more dangerous, like as a movie, which is kind of ridiculous because this movie's incredibly dangerous as a film and has some really disturbing, like unsettling scenes in it. But I just never saw this as like super dark and gritty when I was a kid. I was like, oh, that's Se7en. That's the What's in the Box movie and stuff like that. Whereas The Game just felt a little bit more extra, like there was just a little bit more meat on the bones. Now, again, as I get older, I appreciate this movie a lot more as an actual film. I think the thing that makes this movie work is Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman. Like their chemistry with each other in this film is phenomenal. Their performances are phenomenal, especially the end of this film. And I'm not going to give spoilers on the What's in the Box stuff here, guys, because there's still people out there that haven't seen this movie. And there's still people out there that are wondering what's in the box. And you may know about the sequence. You may know about the impact of the sequence. And you may have like a vague idea of what's in the box, but you don't actually know what's in the box. And you don't actually know the significance of that scene until you watch the film. So I don't want to spoil that at all, but that is such an incredible scene. And it's because of how Morgan Freeman plays it, how Brad Pitt kind of plays off him and how he plays it. It's such a great scene that lives up to the hype and is impactful every single time I watch this movie. But just a really good story. You have Brad Pitt that's kind of the rookie cop that's coming in to replace Morgan Freeman, who's on his way out. He's retiring, and he has 7 days to kind of handle the transition from Brad Pitt to Morgan Freeman in this police precinct. And during this time, there's a serial killer out there that he emerges, and he's killing people in the themes of the 7 deadly sins. So that's a really cool like idea for a setup, and the themes of like 7, the number, are just like really prevalent like all throughout the film. So they use that in like really cool ways. There's some incredible moments, some very tense moments, some very gripping moments, some very disgusting moments, like where they discover like the actual bodies and some of that. Like there's some really cool like special effects and just gross out stuff in this movie that's not meant to be like gross out, but just the way that they portray it, the way they do the special effects, it's very effective, this movie. So the way it's shot and all that stuff. My favorite scene though, the entire film, like other than the ending, which is great, is the apartment like street shootout sequence, which we'll get into it when we talk about the 4K, but that's such an incredible sequence. And the way that they do it, where they don't show like who the shooter is so freaking cool. It is so cool, especially when you know what happens at the end. But yeah, Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, excellent in this movie. Just a very tense movie that has a great pace to it. And you understand like why this film, like when you're done watching it, you understand like why this film like has such a legacy attached to it. It really is like maybe still like David Fincher's like crowning achievement as a director. It is a phenomenal film that I appreciate so much more now. Kevin Spacey, which as the character of John Doe, again, not going to get into too like spoiler stuff here, but you know Kevin Spacey's in the film. He is so good in this movie in the limited time that he's in it, and it's like your big takeaway when you get done watching Seven is like Kevin Spacey and just how chilling his performance is. Kudos to Kevin Spacey and what he did with this film, just elevating it even more than it already was elevated, up to the point where he came into the film. So I love Seven. It's such a great film. Let's get into the 4K, guys. This is a native 4K that was approved by Fincher. Fincher was heavily involved in the 4K here, which is always nice, right? Or is it always nice? Because we have some issues with the camera and stuff. There's other directors that have come in that people have had issues with. Altering your movies is a big thing right now, with physical media and these 4K restorations. What I will say here, guys, is this isn't, to me, like a huge deal what David Fincher did. Now, what George Lucas did, what James Cameron is doing, like to some of his films, just drastically altering the look of them, like that I can see as a big deal. At the end of the day, like you're the filmmaker, it's your film, whatever. But David Fincher, like what he did here, like not a huge deal. Like he added a couple clouds in with like CGI, AI, whatever, added some like power lines. Like I was trying to read up on some of this stuff, added a few, tinkered with a few things, added some stuff here and there, minor stuff that most people would never notice unless they were told to notice. So it's not a big deal. It's not like George Lucas adding in a Jabba the Hutt scene in A New Hope. Like it's not like a drastic change to the film. It's just little things because he has like OCD as a filmmaker. He got the opportunity to go back in and rework this movie, do the 4K restoration, and he did some tinkering. Was it necessary? No, it wasn't necessary. Like he could have just not done it and everybody would have been happy, but he did it, and to me, it's not the end of the day. Like, it doesn't, like, drastically change my thoughts on this 4K or anything. It's just something that happened. And there was the Collider interview as well, where he talked about, like, adding, like, an arm or a sleeve into a shot that was taken out. But, like, back in the day, he liked the performance in the scene, but the way that it was shot and the way the camera panned, like, it was just kind of awkward, and he always wanted to fix it. So he fixed that using AI and CGI with this movie. But, again, this isn't, like, when you hear AI and a new 4K, like your mind may go to like Jaws 3. This isn't like a mutant faces in the background like situation or anything like that. Like it's very small, it's very subtle, and 99.9% of the people, probably 100%. The other like 0.01% are going to be the ones that just really get in there and nitpick everything. They wouldn't have noticed it like if they didn't know about it. So I don't think that anybody would really notice this stuff, unless you're just like a diehard Seven that's just meticulously like analyze like every single frame of this film for the past like 30 years, you're not going to notice these very subtle changes here. So David Fincher was very heavily involved in the restoration. This does have HDR, but it does not have Dolby Vision. And guys, look, just to put your minds at ease, like this is a great 4K. This is a great 4K presentation. I don't know if it's going to be like my best of the year when we get to the end of 2025. It's very early, but I'd say this is a front runner for sure for like a very strong like early 4K in 2025. And I think that people are going to be talking about this one as the year goes on. It's a very crisp 4K presentation. There's a subtle amount of grain there as well, but there is enough there to retain that very filmic quality of the movie. It still feels like a film of the 90s, and that's always very important to me with these 4Ks of these 80s films, 90s films, 70s films. Like, yes, I want it to look good. I want the detail to be there. I want it to be very pristine as far as the picture quality, but I still want it to look like it's of the era that it released in, and this absolutely does. The 4K is astonishing pretty much from beginning to end. Warner Brothers very smartly put this on a 100 gigabyte disc, which gives this room to breathe, and it's running at probably mid 70s to like low 80s as far as like the megabits per second. There were a couple of scenes and sequences, like up close shots, that were running like over 90. Like I said when I was talking about the film, there's a lot of really gross like makeup effects and special effects that they utilize in the movie, and in 4K it looks extra gross, like to the point where you might have to look away in some sequences. Like that's how gross they look in that 4K. Very slimy, just very gross, but very realistic as well. Like the effects in this movie, I don't know if the effects get enough credits in Seven. Like they are very good, the effects work that they did in the film. The streets shootout sequence, which I talked about earlier, is probably my favorite scene of the movie. It was a standout scene in 4K because you're going back and forth between inside and outside it's raining, so you have that rain, the rain droplets on Brad Pitt's face, Morgan Freeman. The shots where the shooter's holding the gun up to Brad Pitt's face and you see the water droplets on the gun looked magnificent in 4K, but that whole street out sequence just looked absolutely fantastic. And going back to the Blu-ray, which I have right here, I have this really cool like Warner R Icons edition. I think they released these back in like 2018 or 2019, but this has like the box on the front cover, so I'll never give this away. And also, this didn't come with a Blu-ray, so I like to keep both versions. But going back and watching the Blu-ray, because I did want to compare the two a little bit, and I'm going to try to be better this year about making, it feel like the 4K is just this drastic upgrade and the Blu-ray's crap. I'm not trying to do that, but at the same time, like to me on my setup and my TV, like when you're comparing the 4K to this Blu-ray, it's kind of a little bit night and day. Now what I want to say about the Blu-ray is there's great detail on this Blu-ray. This is a very good Blu-ray that Warner Brothers did back in the day. But to me, like the look of Blu-ray, like the best way I can describe it, I'm not a technical expert when it comes to this stuff, guys. Like you don't come to this channel for the technical expertise of how I break down these 4K transfers. But the best way I can describe it is the Blu-ray just looks very light and very fluffy. And when you get into these 4K restorations with HDR applied, like it just feels a lot hardier. The picture just feels like a nice hardy like picture with a lot of depth and a lot of substance to it. And it's a little bit darker and the colors are a little bit more intense. So I just much prefer the look of 4K in most cases than I do the look of Blu-ray, which to me just looks like a lot fluffier. Like the colors are there, they're the same. And that's the thing about the color timing, guys. I feel like I heard somebody say something about how he changed the color timing. The colors on the Blu-ray and the colors on the 4K, very similar. There's no issues there when it comes to color timing, at least from what I saw. I thought all the colors looked great. They just took the colors from the DVD, which I also have the DVD as well. A really cool like digipack DVD edition. I found this at a thrifting spot back in the day. It's like the Notebook right there. And I think this had like an outer box to it, but again, I found this at a thrifting spot. So going back and looking at the DVD and the Blu-ray just at a base like color level, like everything looked very similar to the 4K. It was just much more intense and much more enhanced in the 4K format. Just the visual quality here, guys, of this 4K when you compare it to that Blu-ray and that DVD. And again, it always comes down to the setup, guys. I'm watching this on my LG OLED C2 65-inch, and it's like I bought that a couple of years ago, and ever since then, like I can just notice such a difference between some of these 4Ks and some of these Blu-rays. So if you just have like a basic setup in TV, like maybe you won't notice too much of a difference between the Blu-ray and the 4K here. But to me, it was a pretty substantial upgrade, and I thought it looked magnificent. Now, talking about the what's in the box sequence, guys, that looked astonishing in 4K. And I knew that scene had to deliver in 4K, and it 100% did. Like out there in that desert setting with the power lines and just the visual like cinematography and how it looks, just them walking out, the up close shots on Kevin Spacey's face, Morgan Freeman, Brad Pitt, like having that extra detail out there and some of those up close shots of the faces, like it just added to the performances, to the emotion, to the subtle like facial expressions that they make. To me, it just enhanced the scene on a performance level because it looked so good in 4K. But color-wise, just visually, like that whole sequence just absolutely delivered. The orange jumpsuit that Kevin Spacey's in contrasted to like the skyline, and also just that the orange of the desert just looked so incredible. in 4K. So guys, I can't say enough good things. I think this is a great 4K. I really do. If anybody's saying anything negative about this 4K, I would question them a little bit. I would honestly question them a little bit because it's a strong one. And again, I've had people reach out to me on Instagram. It's like, Ken, should I cancel this? Like, I've been hearing chatterings of people talking negatively about the 4K. And I just messaged people back. I was like, after watching it, I was like, absolutely not. It's great. Keep that pre-order in. I think 99.9% of people that watch this 4K are going to be extremely happy with the upgrade. Now, the other like 0.01%, they're going to nitpick. They're going to go through it with a fine-tooth comb. They're going to find any reason to hate on it, and they're going to call David Fincher the next James Cameron, when that is absolutely not the case with this particular 4K. So, I'm excited. I'm excited about the future of Fincher in 4K. I'm excited about the game potentially coming to 4K. We got Fight Club. Apparently, he's working on that. Panic Room's coming soon. So, we're getting the Fincher stuff in 4K, and I think, like, if this is any indication of what he can do, and the work that he can do in 4K, I think we're in for some good 4Ks of his films in the future. Now, getting into the audio, guys, this is a 5.1 DTS HD Master Audio. The same audio. Maybe they did a little bit of work here to the audio. I'm not exactly sure, but it's the same audio from what I can tell from the Blu-ray. Audio-wise, it's a quiet film. There's a couple of big, like, action-y set-piece moments, like the street shootout sequence. But other than that, it's a quiet movie. I don't think it needed, like, a Dolby Atmos upgrade or thing like that. I think some people would have appreciated that, but I don't think it was necessary. Sound-wise, everything sounded good. Nice, crisp, clean audio quality as far as the sound. Now, getting into the packaging itself, guys, this is where it might get a little controversial for some people, because some of y'all had that incredible What's in the Box edition pre-ordered, and now you got to reduce it down to this digipack. But it's a nice digipack edition. This is the J card I'm showing you. You got some images on the back, which I can't get over how great Spacey is. Like, just in that scene where he walks in the police station, it is so freaking chilling. Oh my goodness. But you got the synopsis, you got all the features right there, which we'll get into, specs and stuff at the bottom. Take it out of that. I'll just show you the front. Nice, it's simple front with the title font. Then on the back, you got some other images from the movie, pretty much the same that's on the back of the J card. You got the casting list down below. Now, one interesting thing about this is you actually take this out opposite of what you do like normal, like hard box editions, which this isn't a hard box, but it's usually you take it out of this side and you're taking it out of this side. So when you put it on the shelf, it's going to be backwards. So I don't know if that was like a mess up by Warner Brothers or that was intentional as far as the design, but I know some people that have OCD when it comes to like cataloging their releases, putting them on the shelves, are not going to be like big fans of that. But you take it out of this little, not a hard box. This is a very flimsy case right here, guys. It's already like bending in the corners down there. But you take it out of there. You have this nice like magnetic fold out case, which this does have a digital code, which I'm going to take that out because I'll probably give it away at some point. So the best way I can describe these kind of remind me, this kind of reminds me of the Diamond Lux editions, which I don't know who did that back. I think it was Warner Brothers that did those back in the day, but I have one for Natural Born Killers, got it at Dollar General. I think like 5 or 6 years ago. I think I did a video on the channel actually, but this reminds me of those editions, those Diamond Lux editions, those just kind of like fold out magnetic cases. And I think that's what they're called, Diamond Lux. But you fold it out like this, and you have the front right there, just a bunch of images from the movie, and then you show the back right there with a bunch more images from the film. And then right here on the ends, there's no like booklets inside of this. There's no other discs or anything. There's just one disc, and it's in this far compartment over here, this section. And then you got the 4K. And a lot of people, they do not like these pullouts, guys. They don't like these little digipack pullouts where they got to pull the disc out because they don't want to get their fingerprints on the disc, get it dirty, and I completely understand that. But some nice images on this. I do think this is pretty cool, pretty unique. Now, this digipack edition right here is going for a price point of $24.98. There is also a steelbook version that is available on Amazon and Groove. I think it's sold out temporarily, but it is back in stock, and it's going for, I think, $35.19 right now currently. I will leave links to both of these down below in the description if you want to grab either of these two. And this release from Warner Brothers does come out this Tuesday, January the 7th. Now, getting into the special features, guys, nothing really substantial to talk about here. They have 4 audio commentaries, but those were all on the Blu-ray, and those might have all been on the DVD as well. There's some additional extended scenes, deleted scenes, alternate endings, alternate openings, commentaries on the scenes. There's a really cool one that goes into when they did the remaster for home theater for the DVD release back in the day. But as far as I could tell, like going back and looking at my DVD, going back and looking at my Blu-ray edition, as far as I could tell, like there was nothing new in terms of special features, and I don't think they left anything out from those past editions as well. So all the same features that were in the DVD and in the Blu-ray are in this 4K edition right here. So that's a good thing. They didn't leave anything out, but they also didn't add anything new. And for a 30th anniversary edition, when David Fincher actually like worked on this, like he was present and worked on it, I do think it's kind of crappy that we couldn't get some kind of new like retrospective interview with Fincher talking about this movie, if only for like 10 to 15 minutes. Obviously, you're not going to get Morgan Freeman, Gwyneth Paltrow, Brad Pitt, those big names. You're not going to get them back to talk about it. But you had David Fincher working on this. Like he couldn't do some kind of like 10 to 15 minute or maybe like a 5-minute intro. Maybe like talking about the remastering. Maybe he could have talked about some of the decisions and choices that he made with the revisionist stuff, the CGI, the AI. He could have talked about that, added perspective, added like reasoning why he did it, like Jan de Bont did for Twister. Like that would have been a cool feature to include here as well. So I got to give it a slight mark against it just for not having anything new. But other than that, guys, it's a really good, solid 4K. I do recommend the 4K restoration. The movie itself is great. If you've never seen it, like this is a clear like add to your collection because you will love this film if you love movies of this type. But yeah, guys, thank you all so much for watching my review of 7 on 4K. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. This is going to be a massive year for physical media, guys. 2025 is going to be huge. You're going to want to make sure you're subscribed to the channel for all the news and reviews in 2025. Turn on bell notifications for all future videos and follow me on all my social media accounts. Those links are down below in the description, and we'll see you next time.